All right, what's up? Hunter Hornstein, that's Ryan Moore, and this is Behind the Seams, presented by RipTydz Oceanfront Grill and Rooftop Bar. Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Seams. This is episode 3. We are at a new location, same place, Ryan Moore, RipTydz. But we are down on the ground level with the ocean just feet away. We got sand, we've got cornhole boards, and we've got brand new drinks to drink here on another episode of Behind the Seams. What's up, Ryan?
Good to see you, Hunter.
Always great to see you. All right, let's get right into these things, huh?
All right. This is a can of tropical Red Bull submerged in the drink. I think it's called Everything Under the Sun. And it's literally got everything under the sun. I took my first sip before we went on air, and this one may be the go-to. I could taste the gin, rum, and vodka all in one sip.
Oh, so buddy.
I'm glad we're down on the ground level. No 3 flights of stairs to walk down after this one. What do you got there?
$1 Million View.
Appropriately named.
Not a green screen. Not a wallpaper. Real life.
I dated myself earlier, mentioned it looked like Ecto Cooler, but Hunter was not aware of what Ecto Cooler was. Staple childhood drink back in the 80s.
All right, we'll take one more sip. Oh, so refreshing, and we'll jump right into it. Our first question is from Theo from Twitter. Oh, we kind of got into this one last episode, but what's the most common question you get from people who have no idea what a minor league GM's job is?
Do you get to pick the team? How do you pick the guys? You know, I think that and it's an understandable misconception that a general manager is involved in the player personnel decisions. Any other sport, league, the GM of a team is, in charge of, who's on the team and who's not on the team. On our side, the GM is basically just the head of the business operations side, works as a liaison with the Cubs, who solely handle the player development angle.
All right, moving right along. Next question. Is there any way to associate what happens in the minor leagues, so like what's happening right now and moving forward, with the history of the Carolina League and the South Atlantic League, which we were part of the Carolina League previous to 2021, and then we are now playing teams within the South Atlantic League. They're out of their league. It's all kind of a mix-up right now.
I think we were actually, back when the Myrtle Beach Hurricanes were in existence, I think they were a member of the Sally League as well. Point being is there's always been a lot of change in terms of classifications, affiliations underneath the old structure of minor league baseball. I think this is just the next iteration of that. Will there be further changes amongst affiliations and levels? That I'm certainly possible. But I think you just look at it as like the new era of this is minor league baseball in Myrtle Beach, in Columbia, in Charleston, and the teams that are up in the high A level, like Greenville. They were previously in the Sally League. It's just the next stage in the franchise's history, and that doesn't make it any better, any worse. It's just a new page, and you move forward from here.
It's just new. Change is good. All right, moving right along. Brandon from Twitter. If someone's coming to their first Pelicans game, where should they sit for the best experience?
It depends. I think the easy answer, behind the first base dugout, are the most desirable seats. We see that just based on those are the first ones to typically sell out. You have the benefit there of being in the shade for the entirety of a game, 99% of the games, that is. However, there's a lot of cool places to watch within our ballpark that are outside of just your traditional butts and seats. Our left field bleachers have been wildly popular this year, more so than we've ever seen in the past. And, I've gone out there with my family, and it's a great spot to watch a game, especially if you sit up towards the top and the back. You get that breeze blowing in. You get the nice view of the action coming right to you. Our perch area, GA seating, Hops Heaven, those are all great spots just to kind of sit down in an environment like me or you are sitting, can still have that social element, but have the ball game right in front of you.
Reaching on in, let's keep on moving. Jeff from Facebook, what's the best piece of advice you've received that's helped you get to this point in your career?
Control the controllables and put yourself in the best situation for the uncontrollables. there's a lot of moving parts in what we do, and a lot of it's out of our hands. Weather being one of them, and worrying about every small detail, every minutia of the night will drive you crazy. And if you just put yourself in the best position, control the controllables, and let things go that are outside of your control, you're going to be in a much better position to react to the next controllable if you're not in a bad spot because of the uncontrollables that have been dealt to you. That's probably been the most timely type of advice to get through the last 16 plus months or so. But generally speaking, taking a step back in terms of how do you advance, how do you make a career out of a job, and I think it's listening to others, following in the footsteps of people that have done it, networking, and being open to criticism and saying, hey, there may be a better way that we can get this done, and not being so prideful in what you may think is best. When you put it into practice, someone may come along and say, hey, let's try it this way, and you find out that little tweak has made it that much better.
All right, remind you fans too, we will post on Twitter and Facebook that you can ask questions, and we will answer them here on Behind the Scenes. That's what we're doing. These are real questions from real people on the internet. All right, how's that drink, by the way?
It's good. It's good. I got to keep going.
Refreshing. So refreshing. All right. Jeff from Twitter wants to know, how important is transparency from the organization to the fans?
I think it's paramount. I think you alluded to in an earlier question is you have to be authentic. If there seems to be a buffer between the fans and the organization, it'll get identified real quickly. And I think a part of that is being vulnerable and honest. And not everything goes in our favor. And if we're honest and open about that, people are more understanding than trying to kind of bob and weave and duck away from the actual situation that may be going on. And that can happen in a countless amount of situations, whether that's coming out of a pandemic, coming into a pandemic, being out of a certain inventory item on a certain night. If we're running at max occupancy and there's lines, it's just being understanding of the fan situation and being upfront and honest about it to ourselves. It comes across to the fans as well. I hope, anyways.
I will say, RipTydz is a great spot to come because they do have the 3 levels. There's sand everywhere. There's cornhole boards. They have these big Adirondack chairs that you sit in them and you get lost in them. But then you've also got this great view. They've got a second level, which is tables and a bar, and then they've got the rooftop grill, but all of it is oceanfront. So make sure you head on to RipTydz. Come down to Myrtle Beach. Ryan doesn't say this a whole lot. Eat before you come to the ballpark, but this is one place where he just wants you to come and visit because RipTydz is a great spot for whatever the occasion is, and then you can head down the street, mile down the road, Pelicans Ballpark, and come visit us. Let's move right along. Chris from Twitter wants to know, what is your favorite game you've ever watched at Pelicans Ballpark?
I did see this one come across, and I had it in my mind, but I didn't know the details behind it. Canella, come on up. I believe you were the only one that may have been here for this game. This was September of 2015. It was game 2 of the semifinals for the Mills Cup against the Winston-Salem Dash.
Okay.
Game 1 was in Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
I went up to that game. We took the L. We came back home, had to win game 2 or our season was done.
Yep.
It was about a 3-hour game. We had 4,000 plus people in park. The energy was electric. Everyone said you can't sell playoff tickets in minor league baseball. No one cares. Myrtle Beach proved them wrong. We had 4,000 people in park. It was a beautiful night until we get to the 8th inning. Yeah. A screeching halt. A gigantic storm rolls in, and we have a 3-hour delay. Just under 3-hour delay. And mind you, if we don't win this game, the season's over.
Yeah.
God bless our fans, but 3 hours is a lot for anybody. So by the point in time we actually get the tarp on, get the field back in condition to play, there's like 14 people in the stands. 13 of them are getting paid. And we said, you know what, let's sit down, let's enjoy this game. We sat behind the first base dugout. We spread out so it made it sound like our voices weren't just coming from one area. And we were banging on the chairs. We were just going absolutely nuts, acting completely unprofessional, just obnoxious to some.
Still got to have the home field advantage. It's got to happen.
And I think that's what it was. Everybody kind of like had that mentality of like, all right, we got to get our boys like that home field advantage. So we were acting like fools, and we end up winning in regulation 4-3 to push a decisive game 3, which we then ended up winning.
Is that the longest rain delay in baseball history?
In minor league baseball, I can't imagine. It was exactly 2 hours and 44 minutes. I told you I looked this up because I saw that question. I was like, I remember the game, but I need to know the details. I didn't know it was 15 or 16. I knew it was part of one of our championship runs. But you were there for that. Tell me what your thoughts were.
We were actually just talking about this the other day because that question got posed from a couple of our interns on staff, and they asked when during one of our rain delays what was the longest one ever, and that was the first one that jumped in my mind. I couldn't believe it, but it was something that I'll never forget. You have those moments in sports, and while you're working in sports that you're just never going to let go of, and sitting through a 3-hour rain delay probably tops the charts of unforgettable things.
What's your favorite game? You've been here almost the same amount of time, give or take a year or two that you were gone.
I'll be honest, I don't know.
No, come on. There's got to be.
I can't think
what's your moment then?
One of the moments I'll remember is when you, Kristen, and I, Kristen Call is our associate general manager, we went down to Charleston for opening day for this season, right? First baseball game in over a year. And when everyone stood for the national anthem. And I remember I went down behind home plate because I wanted to make sure I got a picture of everything for Pelican Social. And when all the fans started singing the national anthem, and you could just hear it around you, and that to me was one of those, and I think a lot of it had to do, obviously, the fact that it was first baseball game back. Sure, it wasn't on our place, but it was a baseball game. It was a minor league baseball game. And but to hear all the fans singing that, and then we talked about it afterwards, and we were like, we got to make sure that we prompt our fans. We want them to do the same thing. And sure enough, a week later, they did the same thing. James Canty, tremendous trumpet player, was playing the anthem at our place, sold out crowd. The place was singing. I was on the field for that, lucky enough to be able to take a picture of that, but I could hear everything behind me. And we've made the joke about like that it was emotional, and sure everyone has in minor league baseball, but it truly was because I think after 628, 626, however long it was, over 600 days between baseball games, hearing that, I know it's an easy answer to say that because it happened this year, but everything that we put into after 600 plus days to hear that again. It's cool. It gives you chills. It's something I won't forget for sure. All right, back to our questions. We got Andrew from Twitter. What are some of the biggest in-season wins, not directly related to the game, but operationally?
Every night that we don't have to say, report to 105 for tarp. That is 100% hands down the best situation.
Explain that. What does that mean? Report to 105 for tarp.
All right, so if we see weather's on the horizon, we have to have our tarp crew ready. Our tarp crew is every member of our front office staff that is not currently engaged in an essential activity. Literally essential. If it's not going to keep the ball game rolling or the stadium upright, you're getting to the tarp. Especially last week when we had 30-mile-an-hour winds. Every single hand. You heard me on the radio. It had to be 16 times. All hands report to 105. I got to 105. There wasn't enough hands. All hands. Sure enough, we had enough hands. But when you get that call to go to 105, that means that we have weather in the area that we feel is likely to impede the ability for the game to proceed. And what we need to do is get that tarp on the field quick enough that the amount of rain that we incur before the umpires call for it doesn't prohibit us from coming back to finish the game. We try to make sure that we get every inning of game played with player and fan safety obviously considered. But if we don't get the tarp on the field, everything is moot. So that's the number one thing, is not having to say that. The second best thing is having Shannon, our box office queen, come onto the radio and say, we've gone SRO. We've gone SRO. The next level below that is our parking crew saying, we're into the grass. We're into the grass. That means that all of our hard spots have been filled up, and now we're parking cars on our auxiliary parking lot, or overflow lot. Those are kind of the moments, like if we don't hear rain, we hear SRO, or we're going to the grass, we know we're having a pretty good night.
SRO, standing room only. standing room only, and we pack everyone that we can into the ballpark. And like Moore was saying earlier in the episode about the operational standpoint and the business side, that is truly it. That's what he's worried about. He wants us to have a great night in the ballpark. But now you know. That's what we do on Behind the Seams. We give you a behind the seams look. That's a pun. SEAMS. As a reminder, you can always ask your questions on Twitter and Facebook. Bring them directly to the desk of Captain R. Moore, our team president and general manager. He will answer them to the best of his ability. Ellen from Twitter wants to know, what is your favorite fan memory at Pelicans Ballpark?
I think it's those moments where people think that they're coming out to a ball game and something happens that is just so much more that makes it a life moment, like
Right.
something that they can always go back to. It's so hard to pinpoint one because there's been just so many, but seeing a little boy, a little girl run up to their dad who disguise themselves in the catcher's gear to catch a pitch and they have actually returned home from deployment, I think those are the best. Those get me.
Do you remember there was a gentleman who was coming to his very first game, not only his very first Pelicans game, but his very first baseball game ever. He was from Sweden, and he had just came down here on vacation by himself and just decided on that day to come to the ballpark, was sitting in like 107 right behind the Pelicans dugout, and we didn't have a first pitch that night. And we were talking to him, and there might have been a little bit of a delay in the beginning, which led to us having more conversation with him. And we just said, hey, do you want to throw out the first pitch? And he had no clue what that meant.
He thought it was like literally
He thought it was
the
actual
game.
first pitch
I
of the
remember,
game.
I
And
do
it was
remember.
like, no, I don't want to do that. And we were like, no, it's a lot of fun. You should throw out the ceremonial first pitch.
No one will like me. They'll hit it.
Had no clue.
I remember that.
No clue. Didn't speak a whole lot of great English. Didn't know. First baseball game. Just thought it was something fun to do because it was raining and like he was on vacation. And he ended up like getting a T-shirt. He ended up getting the ball. He threw the first pitch. He got a bunch of autographs. He just was pounding beers. He was crushing beers, crushing hot dogs, just having the time of his life. I think that might have been 2016.
I think it was
a lot of fun.
2016.
Next question comes from Jody on Facebook. Jody on Facebook wants to know, when can we see the dog return to the ballpark?
During a Pelicans game, I don't know. That's outside of our control right now, and I can understand and I appreciate how we're trying to make sure that the players, coaches, and all on-field personnel are as safe as possible as we exit the pandemic. And bringing the dog on brings additional people onto the field, not just the dog himself. And right now, we're not allowed to do that. Will there be a day that we may have, see Slider at the ballpark, come on out and watch him run the bases? That's something that I'm thinking about. And, we've talked about that if it can't be during a Pelicans game, then let's try to find another opportunity that we can make this happen. But for right now, Slider's on the DL, or IL, I guess as they say.
Extended spring training. All right, our last question of this episode of Behind the Seams. CJ from Twitter, Ryan, he wants to know, who is your favorite Hall of Famer?
I'm guessing Major League Baseball.
I would assume so, yes.
This is a cop-out answer.
Oh, boy.
Our ASL jerseys.
Oh, goodness. What a cop-out answer. Well, now you know that Ryan Moore doesn't look at the questions, and I just spring them on him, which makes for great content. We love it. All right, so we are at the point of the show now where we're going to take your last few sips here, there, Ryan. Series is tied at 1 apiece. We're going to find out who drank the most out of the cup. Ryan keeps taking sips here, so I got to take one now. Oh, fair is fair.
You talk, I drink.
So we're going to find out who took the most out of their drink. He's got everything under the sun. $1 million view. All right, Ryan, put yours up there. We're tied at 1 apiece.
I won.
No. Did you win?
Yes.
Can we get an official judge over here?
Let's get them on the same table. I think you need to get closer, Sammy.
The producers are saying that I won.
I'm not sure. Let me see.
You all are seeing this, right? He's literally cheating at the weigh-in. We saw this, right?
Thumb on the scale.
Our
It will be allowed.
Producers are saying that it's being allowed. This is erroneous.
All
This is
right, 1-1-1. 1-1-1.
Oh, we're tied. Okay,
We're
tying.
1-1-1.
We're tying now, apparently, in this. That's outrageous. You can see us on YouTube. Check out Myrtle Beach Pelicans. We've got the previous episodes. We'll have a new episode each month. We got guys over here playing cornhole that are
all right, let's
that are
cut this and then
absolutely
let's go challenge them to a game for a drink.
We're going to go play some cornhole right now. For Ryan Moore, I'm Hunter Hornstein. Thank you to RipTydz, Oceanfront Grill, and Rooftop Bar for hosting us. That is not a green screen. Your questions answered directly to Captain R. Moore. Behind the Scenes, Episode 3. We're out.